Hey guys, quick look at Elephantasm, an overview of what I've built already. When you log in, you get to this anima overview dashboard. I've created my first anima, Zarathustra, and on this page, just really simply, I can see past memories, all the past events that my anima has experienced. On the sandbox page, which is really where the main action happens in terms of you testing and using the system, we've got a chat window here. It's a bring your own key. So you can just select your model provider. I'll add the other two this week. Um, and I can send a message, get a response. Each of these messages gets stored as an event. Once we reach the threshold of the memory monitor, which is shown up here, so you can see how many events, how many tokens, how many memories, how much time has passed since the last memory was created. And so once this accumulates enough events and time and tokens have passed, and it gets to 10, uh, we synthesize a new memory, and that memory shows up here in this memory box. You can see current events that are happening on a per session basis. And you can trigger memories manually as well. But what I was going to show is here you can configure your very basic, but I think quite effective memory algorithm. So the components, the variables are time, events, number of events, and number of tokens. You can give those a weight and you can change the trigger point. So the default is set to 10, which is up here. You can customize the temperature of the model, of the memory, of the dreamer model, memory frequency, which is the frequency of the cron job that goes in to see where we're at, given that there's a time-based variable. So I've just set that to be once every hour, and then you can check and modify max tokens that you want your dream to be, basically your memory length. Um, so you can customize this, but the idea is, once it reaches its threshold, it creates these memories. And so I've just gone ahead and created a few memories right now, which show up here. Um, and then down here we've got knowledge, but I think I'll dive into that on the knowledge page. Let's move on to payloads. So all of the ins and out messages are listed out here. And then what's still a work in progress, which I hope to finish this week, is the memory packs that are dynamically created by the Elephantasm framework and then re-injected into each of the pre-system prompts, basically before the language model gives you a response. So that's how you re-inject memory. So you'll be able to audit what what memory packs are being compiled. Um, on the memories page. So this is basically, if you remember the sandbox here, if you click on the overview, you'll get to the overview page of memories. I can filter out unimportant ones, which it does by default. So this memory, for example, is just a bunch of highs and hellos and tests. So user initiated multiple casual greetings over a 40-minute period, asking basic questions about the AI's identity, but not engaging in substantive conversation. So it's pretty confident that this is low importance, rightly so. So if we set this to 20%, it shows the only two relevant memories. So this memory is PG Bouncer is developing Elephantasm, a long-term memory framework for agents with a layered architecture. And then the other one here is that I'm demoing this video. Um, and explaining, I'm asking questions about how memory works in AI systems. And I can see details here as well. So this is the memory page. Memories I mentioned lead to knowledge. So knowledge gets synthesized on the back of every memory that gets created. Um, Elephantasm tries to extract, or I should say actually that the anima itself tries to extract knowledge from its memories. And it does so across these five categories. So facts, concepts, methods, principles, and experiences. And so, for example, here are a bunch of facts that my anima remembers now. So I'm considering the Claude SDK integration for coding use cases so that you could use Claude Code and Elephantasm, which would, hopefully save you a bunch of time when you're documenting things across your code base because it remembers. Or my events model here is stored in Postgres. Um, and let's contrast to experiences. So my user interest here, user wants deeper understanding of long-term memory. So This kind of ontology, I think, is also one of the things that I think is going to be a real differentiating factor in terms of what we're building here. And I think it's overlooked by a lot of the existing memory frameworks. That brings me to identity, which I think is the most overlooked component of long-term memory. You can choose and define what identity, kind of what being and what personality type you'd like your anima to be slash have. Principles, you can make some of them non-negotiable by highlighting them and starring them, and you can reorganize them in terms of priority and importance. Purpose, there's always a primary purpose and objective in life for these animas as with humans. So the primary objective is to help with software development. There are a few secondary objectives as well. You can add as many as you'd like. There's some relational kind of knowledge, but it's part of the identity. So who is its creator and who is its owner? And relationships to other individuals, which I think becomes useful if you start deploying your agent in, not just as a personal agent, but also maybe across a team or with other people, customers or other users. Philosophy, so you can kind of drag this along and say, you want your anima to be a skeptic and kind of empiricist or a rationalist. There's an ethics framework, some aesthetics input, and then the arc timeline, which is really the era that and the phase that your anima is in at any given point in time. I think this is really important and it'll be interesting to observe how the anima views itself over time. And so, yeah, that's pretty much it for Elephantasm, you know, pre-alpha. I'm going to be fleshing out a lot more of these sections, in particular the payloads one, which is the memory pack I'm currently working on. And once that's ready, we're going to be constructing benchmarks.